Hi, everyone. Today we are doing a podcast on power and knowledge with me, Alana Kaufman.
Brianna Lopez,
Brianna Ramos,
Angie Soto,
Angeline Tran,
and Ashley Palomares.
We have some questions that we're going to be answering today. Each one of us kind of picked one out, talking about the book and analyzing it and summarizing it all, just to see how everyone else interprets it and see the interpretations from different points of view. I'll start off with one of the questions that I had, which is how did you guys understand the relationship between the panopticon and power? Personally, I understood it as similar to the relationship of police and people. In the book, it kind of vaguely mentions this relationship, but explained how the panopticon is pretty much the idea of having surveillance or power over someone. So, as police may not have power over the people, they have surveillance, which many times creates people to follow the laws set in place, which I would consider to be the power.
I would describe it more as an internal surveillance system. Just in the way the prison was constructed, was to create a self discipline within yourself and regulate certain behaviors, thoughts, or actions. Since we hold the feeling of constantly being watched, we have internalized these social norms. So even though when we're not being actively watched, we're acting a certain way.
I see the Panopticon as a silent presence, and it's there to let people know that they're being watched, but they never truly know when they're being watched, and that creates an internal surveillance system, like Angie said, and most people choose to regulate their behaviors and such because of that.
I agree with all those. Did anybody else have anything to say, or should we move on?
I also like what Angie said about how we're always being watched and how our behavior is being regulated, and this is kind of what the picture to me I feel like looks like.
Um, yeah. So I think I have another question, and also just how it reflects power knowledge. How would you say power knowledge affects relationships in your own life or forms your role in certain aspects of your life? Um, for me, I think a way power knowledge has shaped or formed a role I had was when I was given an advisor slash teaching fellow role. I think when you are put in a position to teach others, you hold a certain type of power, and I think it's built on respect in a way. Students are coming to listen to you as you are now a source of knowledge. So once you are now in control of what the class does, the structure and dynamic of the room overall. And I think that relationship really gave me the opportunity of leadership and how to manage a role that holds such power.
I'd have to agree with Angie because in my job, I also hold a position where I have power over people, and it has changed the way I interact with others because I know I need to be aware of my power and how to use it wisely. With my knowledge on how I approach situations, because if I say something that could be taken the wrong way, the effects of that could be bad for everyone around.
I agree. I would say that as of right now, for me at least, I have many positions in my life where I'm actually under people in power, like my job or school or family. However, there have been points in my life where I did get opportunities to be a leader, due to my knowledge. For example, over the summer, I was given the chance to be a head counselor at my job because of the knowledge and experience I had working with a big group of kids, which I think taught me how to use my knowledge correctly.
I feel like depending on what you do, in a work aspect, it has a lot to do with what you know in that area, and I feel like power is definitely different depending on the position you're in. And also what Angeline said, she brought up a good point about having to watch what you do because of how much power you hold. Does anyone else have anything else to say?
Yeah, I also want to agree with Angie how knowledge can shape, your certain role, and how, especially in the classroom, you know, especially when you work with younger kids and they see like they're so small, so they see a bigger person, a taller person, they automatically like view you as someone that can maybe tell them what to do or just guide them.
So I have a question. So out of all the things that contribute to knowledge, like social structures, institutions, and discourses, which one do you guys think is the most important one?
I think honestly, all of them kind of impact and contribute to like knowledge in their own like distinctive ways. Um, they kind of just form a loop in how they all influence each other. Like for example, power forms institutions and like influences social structures, and those conversations and issues that stem from these aspects contribute to and transform like the power dynamic in many relationships. Um, to focus on knowledge, I feel like the institutions play a big role because of the dynamics they hold, and if they have a higher status or more resource, it puts them higher on a societal standard, and they offer students more access and more support that all directly impact the amount of knowledge they gain compared to maybe like a school who has lower resources or holds like a different demographic. um I feel like you definitely see the difference in between like what is being taught in schools and like what is higher of importance to be taught in a way.
I agree. I also think that they're all important in their own ways, and that they contribute to not only the growth of knowledge, but as well as like the knowledge of how knowledge influences the world.
Yeah, I agree with you guys too. I feel like they all contribute to knowledge in a way, and like they all combine into one.
I have a question that I wanted to think about is what kind of knowledge would give you the most power? For me, it would be the knowledge of our history because without that knowledge, we would probably keep making the same mistakes again and again. And also, knowledge of our history would give us a better starting point so that we wouldn't have to build new hypotheses, but we can continue on from what we already know.
I would have to agree with Angeline because if we have the power of history, our past mistakes won't repeat themselves, and we can learn from the past and provide ourselves a better future where we would live like an ideal life. As well, the knowledge of history would provide us with insight on how past failures could become successful outcomes for our society.
Yeah, and like to piggyback kind of off what you guys are saying, I think that that's why this book of Power and Knowledge, and even many others we've talked about, are so important, because without these philosophers that come throughout history, critical thinking would not have been as common. Yet the knowledge of critical thinking is one of the main skills that can benefit somebody having power. Yeah, I agree. I think all of our questions were really good, and I think it helped us gain a better understanding of the book as a whole and how we can apply it to our lives and how the relationship between power and knowledge and what it truly is. Thank you guys for listening.